Alright folks, so here is our third and final video for the last section of chapter 12 notes. Here we have the slide titled Hemophilia, and it's apparently located on sex chromosomes. So, as it says here, well, this got covered, but sex chromosomes. So let's study some of the information on the slide and figure out what we need to do. It says it wants us to draw a pedigree based on the Punnett square. So first of all, what that means is we need to draw a pedigree. Remember, we use symbols, circles, and squares to show this right here. So we have one parent, and it gives their two alleles. And we have another parent. They have X and Y, by the way. That means this is the father. So you have the father and the mom. So you draw mom with a circle, and you'd label her X with an H, dominant H, and you have X with a recessive H. And X is in the X sex chromosome. So X represents the chromosome, and H represents the dominant allele on that chromosome. And then the X here is the sex chromosome X, and it represents a recessive version of the gene, or the recessive allele, on the X chromosome. So a female has two X chromosomes, and on each of her X chromosomes she has, in this situation, dominant and then also the recessive. So if she's heterozygous, and you draw a circle, and then you also need to show the guy. Remember, we're doing a pedigree, so you'd show that he's a square, because the shape of a man is a square, just like you see here. And in this situation, his X chromosome has a dominant allele on it, and his Y chromosome, what do you know? It does not have either a dominant or recessive. The Y chromosome does not contain an allele or a gene for hemophilia. The Y chromosome has nothing to do with the blood at all, or blood cells. In fact, at this point, you're probably wondering what the heck is hemophilia. And in that case, you would click on this URL so you could learn more about it. And maybe at that point, after you watch, you want to return. But you basically make a pedigree using this dad and this mom, and you show that they have 4 kids. In this example, they have 2 daughters and 2 sons. So you create the pedigree just like we did in the very beginning of chapter 12, but making the pedigree based on this Punnett square. All right, the next thing to do is you have to decide, why are men more likely to experience hemophilia than females? And answer that, I would look over here. Look at this information. Look at this information here. And if you think and are focused on this Punnett square and this, and recognizing where the hemophilia allele is located, it'll help you understand, basically, why men are more likely to have hemophilia than ladies. And here's a question. Can males be carriers for hemophilia? Well, if you understand this question here, you probably will also understand this one. So watch the video if you get confused, and it'll probably provide the answer there. Or all you have to do is really just play this game. Look at the X chromosome, know that it has a hemophilia gene on it, and the Y does not. So think about the fact that a dad or a guy only gets 1 allele for hemophilia, and a female gets 2. And also think about the fact that hemophilia is a traditional form of dominance. So there's 1 dominant and there's 1 recessive allele for that trait. Here we go. This slide right here is only used for a worksheet, and you're going to be working on that worksheet later. So remember that this slide exists. Some of the text is covered up. So if I was you, I would take this slide, and it's slide 20, and I'd download it. You don't really have to download onto the laptop. Just hit download like I just did. Just hit download. Let's see if it's going to respond. It's getting there. Oh, it does actually want you to save it. Never mind. Well, you can download it temporarily, and then you could actually move these images and actually be able to see some of the information below. But they'll help you with this worksheet. And then the same for this next slide. It's a combination of different hair colors, and you need that for the worksheet. So these first two slides, let's see, it's slide 20, and then this next one, slide 21, just help with the worksheet. So it shouldn't be too much more information than that. Here we go. Well, hopefully at this point you didn't just copy the information I gave you. Here's some answers actually for the hemophilia slide. But let's move forward. Here we go. So polygenic inheritance means that it's a trait controlled by 2 or more genes. So instead of thinking about one gene and thinking about that gene has 1 or 2 or 3 or more alleles, the idea is that any trait is controlled by multiple genes. That's not different alleles, that's literally a bunch of different genes decide how you look or how you act or affects your traits. And it sees here, so again the term is called polygenic, meaning many genes involved. And it says evidence for a polygenic trait is high variation in a trait. So look at this, we have here's clearly a big range of possibilities for a certain trait. You can take a guess what that trait is. You could say the same thing for this. Look at this hair up here. Look at all the different hair color types there's possible. So that's potentially polygenic as well. And then eye color as well. Lots of variation, lots of possibilities suggest that more than 2 genes are involved. It says pick one. So it says make a brainstorm web of 4 human traits that vary a great deal among people. Well, I already gave you a couple. See if you can think of a third or a fourth. And then here it says pick one of those traits and provide examples of how it displays variation or differences. So one of these bubbles of one trait that there's a lot of different possibilities for a person. Just explain what those possibilities are. All right, good luck. And there's a video here. Again, it'll help you. It'll better explain polygenic inheritance, or it'll give you an example of one trait that is polygenic or controlled by multiple genes. So right here we have heredity, or basically what you inherit from your parents, and a new idea, which is that the environment can actually affect your DNA. Even though you inherit what you inherit from parents, this new idea suggests that the environment can actually interact or mess with the genes you have. And it's kind of interesting because what that means is that the world you grow up in, your neighborhood, your home, whatever that environment is, the lifestyle choices you make, living healthy, doing drugs, they all could potentially mess with your DNA, the DNA you inherited from mom and dad. So let's look at this first task. It says, how can genetics help shape how people view themselves? So basically the question is asking you to write on note paper, thinking about who you are, how does that relate in how you act, how you see the world, what you do, what you like, everything. How does that relate to heredity and genetics for you? What do genes have to do with who you are, how you are? Now, what do you have to say about that? And what do your genetics say about your own potential in life? Can you do anything you want, regardless of the genes you inherit? Or can you not? Do you think you're kind of bound to some degree by the genes you inherit? Can anyone be the smartest if they want? Or can they not? Is it limited by the genes? Can anyone slam dunk a basketball? These are the type of ideas to think about. So how do genes relate to your own potential and what you can and can't do? What are your thoughts on that? Just show your thinking. Write it out. Here we go. A special word that represents how the environment can alter your DNA is this word called epigenetics. So epi means outside, genetics means genes, of course, right? So epigenetics means the things that affect your DNA or affect who you are outside of just the DNA itself. So it's the fact that your environment and your experiences alter your DNA. And so here's a bunch of different examples. The food you eat, maybe the relationships you're in, maybe neglect, maybe the chemicals in your brain that shape how you feel and the emotions you experience. Maybe it's aggression and the fighting in your environment, or the hobbies you seek out, what they do to you, how it affects you. You know, maybe you get locked up. You know, these, or maybe you do some drugs. Maybe you're a smoker. All these things are part of your environment and part of your experience, and they all potentially can change your DNA. Here's another URL you should click on to better understand some of these ideas of epigenetics. Here it says, brainstorm and list 5 things that your body can experience or absorb that may affect your physical and mental development. So what are 5 things in your environment that potentially could affect you physically or mentally? And it says make a brainstorm list of 5 things. And then down here it says ideal lifestyle that may have or currently affects your DNA. So if the environment and your experiences can alter your DNA, what's one that may be affecting your DNA? And for better or worse, whatever it is. And just show your thinking, you know, tell a story, relate it, something you're comfortable sharing. All right, here's the next slide. Here's another example of epigenetics. And the idea of epigenetics is really based on what does it mean that your environment affects your DNA? What it means is that your environment is basically providing certain chemicals or molecules that can attach to your gene and turn them on or off. And there's an activity that you've done before. These little red and gold things here can literally turn a gene on or off. And what's interesting is that this picture is showing that some of the foods you eat can actually provide some of the molecules that can attach to DNA in certain spots and actually turn a gene on or off. And that could be good or bad, depending on the situation. In this original simulation that we've done from chapter 11, they were called positive or negative transcription molecules. It's a technical word, but just like certain little molecules, whether you breathe them in or it's from the food you eat after digestion, that can attach to your genes. Well, it says, watch simulation, then explain the function of the negative or positive transcription factor. And that's right here. So you go to this, you click on this, open it up, you're going to see this image right here, and study the behavior of the transcription factor to better understand what they can do. And it's showing you right here, the food you eat, or maybe the air you breathe, can actually put these transcription factors on your DNA. And it says view picture to the right, and kind of break it down, kind of like we just did. Study the photo, and in your best words, just try to say what you think it means. So what is it saying about these things? So you should be using or thinking about these ideas from the picture in your explanation of what you think it means. So methyl, the methyl groups, which are these green guys. The bonding, which has to happen between molecules, the DNA polymer or giant molecule and these smaller molecules. And gene activation. And gene activation, if you need to understand that, you remember from the simulation or read the definition here. Histone proteins are another molecule, a protein molecule that attaches. You can see it's wound up in the DNA. And these histone proteins have a function that can also adjust how a gene is acting. So does a gene make a protein or does a gene not make a protein? And just in general, a reminder is that if a gene is making a protein, that protein is basically part of your body, or it's doing something in your body. So if the gene is shut off, it's not making part of your body, or it's making too much parts of your body, or it's not doing something in your cells. So the protein is not there to do something in a cell. And good examples are like this froggy here. You can see that it's not that the protein didn't make enough body parts, it made potentially too many. And if you remember this from an earlier chapter, Bio A, which is first semester biology, this is also related to the chemicals and pollution. And here's a video. This video discusses the side effects of chemicals in modern warfare and weaponry and the impact it has on children. And that is potentially, those chemicals potentially are influencing histone proteins, or perhaps these things, these gene control molecules. So the chemicals around you potentially affect these types of molecules that can attach to your genes and turn them on or off. So watch the video, think about it, answer these questions. And that's pretty much it.